The emergency lights were flashing red across the great hall of the Galactic Coalition. Ambassador Rila had never seen the council chamber so full of fear. She stood near the back wall, her blue skin pale with worry, watching the 12 species argue with each other. Counselor Venn slammed his four-fingered hand on the table. "We have lost 300 warriors," he said. 300 of our best soldiers, gone in 2 days. "And you want to send more?" Commander Tosk clicked his mandibles in anger. The insectoid warrior stood 8 feet tall, his black armor gleaming under the station lights. "My Keth warriors died with honor," he said. "But yes, they died. The Hollow is stronger than we thought." Rila listened carefully. She was young for a diplomat, only 40 years old by Laura standards. She had joined the coalition to learn about the galaxy and its many peoples. But today, she was learning something different. Today, she was learning about fear. The crisis had started 5 days ago. A group called the Hollow had attacked a mining colony on the moon called Keth 4. They killed the guards and took control of the underground fortress. Inside that fortress were 2,000 civilians from 6 different species. Men, women, and children. All of them were now hostages. The Hollow wanted money. They wanted weapons. They wanted a ship to escape. And they promised to kill 1 hostage every hour until they got what they wanted. Commander Tosk had sent his warriors to save them. The Keth were proud fighters. They had conquered a dozen worlds before joining the coalition. Tosk believed his soldiers could handle anything. He was wrong. The fortress was a maze of tunnels deep underground. The Hollow had weapons that should have been impossible to get. They had turrets that fired automatically at anything that moved. They had bombs placed at every entrance. And they had no mercy. The first assault team of 150 Keth warriors entered through the main tunnel. Only 3 made it back alive. They spoke of darkness, of enemies that seemed to know where they were at all times, of traps that killed without warning. Tosk sent another team through a different path. This time, none returned. Now the council was meeting to decide what to do next. Some wanted to pay the ransom. Others wanted to bomb the entire moon and accept the loss of the hostages. A few suggested waiting and hoping for a miracle dot, and then Counselor Venn spoke the words that changed everything. "Perhaps," he said slowly, as if the words hurt his mouth, "we should ask the humans." The chamber went silent. Rila felt a chill run down her spine. She had heard stories about humans, of course. Everyone in the galaxy had heard stories. Humans had only joined the coalition 60 years ago. They were a young species, barely out of their own solar system. But in those 60 years, they had built a reputation that made even the mighty Keth nervous. Humans were small. They were soft. They had no claws, no armor, no venom. By all logic, they should have been prey. But somewhere in their evolution, something had gone very wrong. Or very right, depending on how you looked at it. Humans did not fight like other species. They did not charge into battle with honor and glory. They studied their enemies. They learned their weaknesses. And then they destroyed them completely, without mercy, without hesitation, and often without warning. There were stories of human soldiers walking into impossible situations and walking out again, leaving only bodies behind. There were stories of single humans defeating entire squads of trained warriors. Some said the stories were lies. Others said the stories did not tell the whole truth because the whole truth was too frightening. "Commander," Tosk made a sound of disgust. "Humans," he said. "You want to bring humans into Keth space? They are dangerous. They cannot be controlled." "Neither can the Hollow," Venn replied. "And the Hollow has 2,000 of our people." The debate continued for another hour. Rila watched as the council slowly accepted the terrible truth. They had no other options. Their own military had failed. Their own warriors had died. If they wanted to save those hostages, they needed help. Finally, the vote was taken. 11 species voted yes. Only the Keth voted no, and even Tosk looked relieved beneath his anger. A message was sent to Earth. It explained the situation in detail. It asked for human military assistance. It promised payment and political support in return. The response came in less than 1 hour. Rila, read the message on her personal screen. It was short and simple. Admiral Sujin Beek will arrive at Coalition Station in 18 hours. Prepare a full tactical briefing. Do not attempt any further rescue operations until she assesses the situation. That was all. No promises. No demands. Just a name and a time. Rila looked up the name in the Coalition database. Admiral Sujin Beek, human female. Age 52. Commander of the Terran Marine Special Operations Division. The database had very little other information, and Rila suspected that was intentional. She turned off her screen and looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, 2,000 innocent people were waiting to be saved or killed. And somewhere else, a human ship was already on its way. Rila did not know if she should feel hope or fear. Perhaps, she thought, both feelings were correct. Admiral Sujin Beek arrived exactly on time. Rila watched her walk into the war room and felt her heart beat faster. She had expected someone tall, someone muscular, someone frightening. What she saw was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. Sujin wore a simple dark uniform with no medals or decorations. She walked without sound, each step careful and controlled. Her face showed no emotion at all. She looked at the gathered council members, the way a scientist might look at insects under glass. Councillor Venn stepped forward. "Admiral Beek," he said, "thank you for coming so quickly. We are grateful for humanity's assistance." Sujin nodded once. "Show me the situation." Commander Tosk activated the holographic display. A three-dimensional map appeared in the center of the room, showing the fortress on Keth 4. Blue dots marked the locations of hostages. Red dots showed enemy positions. There were many, many red dots. "The Holo controls this underground facility," Tosk explained. He pointed at the map with one of his clawed hands. "The main entrance is here. Secondary tunnels here and here. All of them are heavily defended. We estimate 847 enemy combatants, plus automated defense systems, throughout the complex." Sujin studied the map without speaking. Tosk continued. "The hostages are spread across multiple holding areas. This makes a direct assault extremely dangerous. Any attack would give the Holo time to execute prisoners before we could reach them all." "Understood," Sujin said. Her voice was quiet and flat. "We lost 300 of our best warriors trying to breach the outer defenses," Tosk added. There was pain in his voice now. "My soldiers died honorably, but they died. This enemy fights without honor. They use traps and tricks instead of facing us directly." Rila thought she saw something flicker across Sujin's face. It might have been amusement. It disappeared so quickly that she was not sure. Councillor Venn stepped closer to the human admiral. "We need to know what resources you require," he said. "How many human soldiers should we prepare transport for?" "We can accommodate up to 5,000 troops if necessary. 10,000 if we use civilian vessels." Sujin did not answer immediately. She walked around the holographic display, looking at it from different angles. Her eyes moved constantly, taking in every detail of the fortress layout. Rila noticed that she spent extra time studying the ventilation systems and maintenance tunnels. Finally, Sujin stopped walking. She looked at Councillor Venn with those calm, empty eyes. "One," she said. The room went silent. Venn's blue skin turned slightly purple with confusion. "I am sorry, Admiral." I do not understand. One what? One Marine, Sujin said. Send 2 more to carry the bodies. Rila felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. She looked at the other council members and saw the same shock on all their faces. Commander Tosk's mandibles were clicking so fast that they made a buzzing sound. Admiral, Ven said carefully, perhaps there is a translation error. You are saying you want to send 3 soldiers against 800 enemies. No, Sujin replied. I am sending 1 soldier against 800 enemies. The other 2 are for support and extraction. Regulations require a minimum team size. Tosk stepped forward, his massive body shaking with anger. This is an insult, he growled. 300 Keth warriors died in that fortress. And you send 3 humans? You mock our dead. Sujin turned to face him. She was less than half his size, but she did not seem small in that moment. Your warriors were brave, she said, but they were not built for this work. They fought with honor. That was their mistake. Honor is never a mistake, Tosk snapped. In a hostage situation, it is, Sujin replied calmly. Your soldiers announced themselves. They attacked in groups. They followed military formations. The enemy knew exactly where they were and exactly what they would do. Large forces create chaos. Chaos kills hostages. One specialist, moving through the dark, kills only enemies. The war room was completely quiet now. Even Tosk had stopped clicking his mandibles. Counselor Ven looked at the holographic map, then back at the human admiral. And you believe 1 human can succeed where 300 Keth failed? I believe Sergeant Taiho Park can succeed, Sujin said. I have seen him do more with less. Who is this Sergeant Park? Sujin almost smiled. Almost. He is the Marine I am sending. The 2 others are Corporal Hana Yun and Private Minho Kang. They will arrive within 6 hours. Rila worked up her courage and spoke for the first time. Admiral, may I ask a question? Sujin looked at her. Those calm eyes studied her face for a moment. Ask. If you have soldiers capable of this, why send only 1? Why not send 100 like him and guarantee success? The question seemed to please the Admiral. Because Sergeant Park asked me to let the others rest, she said. And because sending more would be wasteful. 6 hours later, Rila stood in the docking bay and watched a small shuttle land. The door opened and 3 humans walked out. The first was a young woman with short black hair and sharp eyes. She carried medical equipment and moved with quick, efficient steps. This was Corporal Hana Yun. The second was an even younger man, barely more than a boy, with a friendly face and a large weapon on his back. He looked around the station with curious eyes. This was Private Minho Kang. The third human was smaller than Rila expected. He was average height for a human, with a lean body and short dark hair. His face was calm, his eyes were cold, and he moved like water flowing over rocks. No wasted motion. No unnecessary sound. This was Sergeant Taiho Park. He looked at the holographic display of the fortress that Rila had prepared. He studied it for exactly 10 seconds, then he nodded once and spoke his first words. When do we begin? The stealth shuttle flew through the darkness without a sound. Rila sat in the back, her hands shaking slightly. She had asked to come along as an observer. Now, she was beginning to regret that decision. Corporal Hana was checking her medical supplies for the 3rd time. Private Minho was cleaning his weapon and humming a soft tune. And Sergeant Taiho sat perfectly still with his eyes closed. Rila watched him carefully. His breathing was slow and steady. His face showed no tension at all. He might have been sleeping, except that his fingers occasionally twitched, moving in small patterns that she did not understand. Is he resting? Rila asked Hana quietly. Hana looked up and smiled. It was not a happy smile. No, she said. He is working. In his mind, he's already inside that fortress. He's walking through the tunnels, memorizing every turn, planning every move. By the time we land, he will know that place better than the people who built it. That is not possible, Rila said. He only saw the map for a few seconds. Minho laughed softly. The sergeant has a gift, he said. He sees a place once, and he never forgets it. Every room, every shadow, every possible hiding spot. It all stays in his head forever. That sounds like a useful ability for a soldier. It is, Hana said. It is also a curse. He remembers everything. The good things and the bad things. He cannot forget anything, even when he wants to. Rila looked at Taiho again. His face was so peaceful, so calm. But now she noticed the small lines around his eyes, the gray hairs at his temples. He was not old for a human, but he looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. The shuttle began its descent. They were approaching Keth 4, the small moon where 2,000 innocent people were waiting to be saved. Taiho opened his eyes. 3 minutes, the pilot announced over the speaker. Taiho stood up and began checking his equipment. He moved with smooth, practiced motions. A knife went into his boot. Another knife went onto his belt. Small devices that Rila did not recognize went into pockets and pouches across his black armor. Sergeant, Rila said, may I ask you something? Taiho looked at her. His eyes were dark and cold, like deep water on a moonless night. He nodded once. Are you not afraid? Taiho considered the question for a moment. Fear is useful, he said. His voice was quiet and rough. It keeps you alert. It keeps you careful. A soldier who feels no fear makes mistakes. So you are afraid? I am always afraid, Taiho said. I have just learned to move anyway. The shuttle landed in a rocky canyon 3 kilometers from the fortress. The back door opened, letting in cold air and darkness. Keth 4 had no sun of its own. The only light came from the distant stars. Taiho stepped out first. For one moment, Rila could see him clearly against the night sky. Then he moved, and he was simply gone. He had vanished into the shadows like he had never existed at all. Rila blinked and looked around. Where did he go? He's already moving toward the fortress, Hana said. She was setting up a small computer system that would let them monitor Taiho's vital signs. Our job is to wait at the extraction points and help the hostages when he brings them out. And if he needs help inside? Minho and Hana exchanged a look. He will not need help, Minho said. We would only slow him down. They made camp in a small cave near the shuttle. Hana's computer showed a map of the fortress with a single green dot moving toward it. The dot was Taiho. La watched the dot move through the rocky terrain. It was fast, much faster than she expected. Within 20 minutes, Taiho had reached the outer walls of the fortress. He is entering through a ventilation shaft, Hana said, watching her screen. The entrance is too small for Keth warriors. They never considered it a threat. Humans are smaller, Rila said. Yes, Hana replied. And we use that. On the screen, Taiho's dot entered the fortress and began moving through the walls. He was traveling through maintenance tunnels and air ducts that the original builders had forgotten about. Places too tight for most species. Places that nobody was watching. Then the first red dot appeared on the screen. An enemy soldier on patrol. Rila held her breath. The green dot and the red dot moved closer together. They touched. The red dot disappeared. First contact, Hana said calmly. Enemy down. Rila waited for alarms, for flashing lights, for chaos. Nothing happened. The fortress remained quiet. How? She whispered. He is very good at his job, Minho said simply. More red dots appeared as Taiho moved deeper into the fortress. 2 guards at a junction. 3 soldiers in a break room. A four-man patrol walking the tunnels. One by one, the red dots disappeared. One by one, the enemies died without making a sound. Rila checked the time. 15 minutes had passed. Taiho had killed 23 enemies. His heart rate, displayed on Hana's screen, was 62 beats per minute. The same as when he had been resting on the shuttle dot to him. Rila realized with growing horror. This was not a battle. This was just work. Simple, routine work. She thought about Commander Tosk's 300 warriors. They had charged into the fortress with weapons blazing, shouting battle cries, fighting with honor and glory. And they had died. Taiho moved through the darkness without honor or glory. He killed without warning, without mercy, without hesitation. And he survived. On Hannah's screen, another red dot vanished. 20-4. Deep inside the fortress, a man named Krell was starting to feel afraid. Krell was the leader of the Hollow. He had planned this operation for 2 years. He had gathered weapons, recruited soldiers, and chosen the perfect target. Everything had gone exactly as expected. The coalition had sent their warriors, and his traps had destroyed them. Now the galaxy would pay his price, or more hostages would die. But something was wrong. It had started an hour ago. A patrol had missed their check-in. Krell had sent soldiers to investigate. They found 4 bodies in a maintenance corridor. The men had been killed so quickly that they had not even drawn their weapons. Then another patrol went silent. Then another. Then 5 more. Krell had ordered all his soldiers to report their positions every 10 minutes. The first few reports came in normally. Then the numbers started dropping. 847 soldiers became 800. Then 750. Then 600. Nobody had seen the enemy. Nobody had heard gunfire. Men simply went into the tunnels and never came back. What is happening? Krell screamed at his lieutenant. Who was doing this? The lieutenant was shaking. Sir, the sensors show nothing. Motion detectors show nothing. It is like fighting a ghost. Krell grabbed a radio and shouted into it. All units fall back to the hostage chambers. Use the civilians as shields. Nothing gets through without my order. His remaining soldiers began retreating toward the center of the fortress. They moved in large groups, weapons ready, checking every shadow. Krell felt slightly better. With the hostages as protection, the enemy would have to stop. Nobody would risk killing innocent people. Then the lights went out, not all at once. First the outer corridors went dark. Then the secondary tunnels. Then the main hallways. Section by section, the darkness spread through the fortress like a living thing. Krell's soldiers turned on their flashlights. The beams cut through the blackness, revealing empty corridors and locked doors. Nothing moved. Nothing made a sound. Then the screaming started. It came from somewhere behind them. A single cry of surprise, cut short almost immediately. Then silence. Then another scream from a different direction. Then silence again. Krell's lieutenant grabbed his arm. Sir, we need to move, now. They ran toward the main hostage chamber, a large room where 300 civilians were being held. Krell's boots echoed on the metal floor. His heart pounded in his chest. He could hear his soldiers dying somewhere in the darkness, and he could do nothing to stop it. They reached the chamber and sealed the door behind them. 50 of his best soldiers were already inside, their weapons pointed at the terrified hostages. 8 heavy turrets covered every entrance. This room was a fortress within a fortress. Nothing could get in without being seen. Krell took a deep breath and tried to calm himself. He was safe here. He had hostages. He had leverage. The enemy would have to negotiate now. His radio crackled. A voice spoke, quiet and calm. You have 12 minutes to release the hostages and surrender. This is not a negotiation. Krell stared at the radio. Who is this? How did you access this channel? 11 minutes and 40 seconds. I have 300 hostages in this room, Krell shouted. I will kill them all if you do not stop. Silence. Did you hear me? I will execute them one by one. The radio clicked off. Krell grabbed the nearest hostage, a young female from the Laura species. He dragged her to the center of the room and put his weapon against her head. He activated the broadcast system that sent video to the Coalition station. Watch this, he said into the camera. Watch what happens when you send your ghost soldiers against me. He pulled the trigger. The hostage fell. One dead, Krell announced. Send more soldiers, and more will die. Give me what I want, and the rest will live. He waited for a response. None came. Minutes passed. The room was silent except for the crying of hostages and the nervous breathing of soldiers. Krell's eyes moved constantly, checking every door, every shadow, every corner. Then the lights flickered. For just a moment, the room went dark. When the lights returned, something had changed. Krell looked around, trying to understand what was different. Then he realized two of his soldiers were lying on the floor, dead. Their throats had been cut so cleanly that there was almost no blood. Contact. Someone shouted. Weapons fired at nothing. Bullets hit walls and floor and ceiling. The hostages screamed and threw themselves flat. The lights flickered again. 3 more soldiers fell. Seal the doors, Krell screamed. Nobody comes in or out. But the doors were already sealed. They had been sealed the entire time. Krell spun around, his weapon ready. His hands were shaking so badly that he could barely hold it. 8 of his soldiers remained standing. They formed a circle, backs together, guns pointing outward. The lights went out completely. In the darkness, Krell heard sounds. Quick, soft sounds. The wet noise of a blade cutting flesh. Bodies hitting the floor. A gasp of surprise, cut short. Then silence. The lights came back on. Krell was alone. All 8 soldiers were dead on the floor around him. Standing in the center of the room, not 3 meters away, was a human. He was smaller than Krell expected. Short dark hair, calm face, cold eyes. He held a bloody knife in one hand. His breathing was slow and steady. Krell raised his weapon and pointed it at a child hiding nearby. Stay back. I will kill this child. The human did not speak. He simply moved. Krell never saw what happened next. One moment, the human was 3 meters away. The next moment, he was directly in front of him. Krell felt a sharp pain in his wrist, and his weapon fell to the floor. Then there was pressure on his neck, and everything went dark. When Hannah and Minho entered the chamber 30 minutes later, they found 300 hostages sitting quietly against the walls. 50 enemy soldiers lay dead on the floor. Sergeant Taiho Park was helping a limping elderly man toward the exit. Status? Hannah asked. All hostages secure in this section, Taiho replied. 4 more chambers to clear. How many hostiles remaining? Taiho thought for a moment. None. Hannah stopped walking. None? You cleared the entire fortress? Yes. Minho looked at the bodies on the floor, then back at the sergeant. How many total? Taiho did not answer immediately. He helped the elderly man sit down safely, then turned to face his teammates. His face showed no pride, no excitement, no emotion at all. 847, he said. Let us begin evacuation. 3 days had passed since the rescue. The Coalition station was full of celebration. 2,000 hostages had been saved. The Hollow was destroyed, and it had only taken 3 humans in 12 hours. The galaxy was trying to understand what had happened. News reports showed the fortress interior. Camera drones flew through corridors filled with bodies, recording the impossible scene. 847 enemies, killed without a single hostage casualty. Military experts from a dozen species studied the footage and argued about how it was done. They could not agree on anything except one point. This should not have been possible. Rila stood in the medical bay, watching the rescued hostages receive treatment. Children played in the corners while their parents cried with relief. Medical staff moved between beds, healing wounds that would have been fatal without help. She thought about what she had witnessed. She thought about Taiho Park. The human had not celebrated after the mission. He had not smiled or laughed or accepted praise. He had simply helped evacuate the hostages, filed his report, and returned to his quarters to sleep. Rila found him there now, sitting alone by a window and looking at the stars. His face was calm, but there was something heavy in his eyes. Something tired. "May I speak with you, Sergeant?" she asked. Taeho nodded without turning around. Yes. Rila sat down across from him. She had prepared many questions, but now they all seemed wrong. Finally, she asked the simplest one. "How do you feel?" Taiho was quiet for a long moment. "I feel the same as always," he said. "Empty, useful, tired. You saved 2,000 lives. I took 847. Rila did not know how to respond to that. She watched his face, trying to understand the man behind those cold eyes. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "No, they chose their path. They took hostages. They killed innocents. They made themselves enemies. I simply finished what they started." "Then why do you look so sad?" Taiho finally turned to face her. For just a moment, she saw something beneath the calm surface. Pain, exhaustion, the weight of memories that never faded. "Because I am very good at killing," he said softly. "And sometimes I wonder what else I could have been if the universe was different." Before Rila could respond, the door opened. Commander Tosk entered the room. His massive insectoid body barely fit through the doorway. He looked at Taiho with an expression that Rila had never seen on a Keth face. Before Respect.Tosk stopped in front of the human and performed a deep bow. It was the gesture his species reserved for the greatest warriors, the ones who had proven themselves beyond all doubt. "I was wrong about your kind," Tosk said. "I thought you were soft, weak. I thought our ways were superior." Taiho stood up to face him. He was tiny compared to the Keth commander, yet somehow he did not seem small. "Your warriors were brave," Taiho said. "They fought with honor." "And they died," Tosk replied. "You fought without honor. And you lived. I must know, do all humans fight as you do?" Taiho considered the question carefully. "The ones who survive do." Tosk made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. "Then I am glad we are allies, Sergeant Park. I would not want you as an enemy." He bowed again and left the room. Rila watched him go, then turned back to Taiho. "He called you honorless. Does that not bother you?" "He was not wrong," Taiho said. "I do not fight with honor. I fight to win, to survive, to protect. Honor is a luxury for those who have never seen war take everything from them." Later that day, Rila found Corporal Hana in the station cafeteria. The young medic was eating alone, reading something on her tablet. "May I join you?" Rila asked. Hana smiled and nodded. "Of course." Rila sat down and struggled to find the right words. "I want to understand," she finally said. "I watched Sergeant Park kill hundreds of enemies without hesitation. His heart rate never changed. He showed no emotion at all. Yet he seems kind, gentle, even. How can one being do what he does and remain sane?" Hannah put down her tablet and thought carefully before answering. "Humans break," she said. "We break like everyone else. We feel fear and pain and guilt and sadness. But somewhere in our history, we learn to break in directions that keep us moving. We learn to carry our damage without letting it stop us. That sounds terrible. It is, Hana agreed. But it is also what makes us useful. Taiho carries weight that would crush most beings. Every life he has taken, every friend he has lost, every moment of violence he cannot forget. He carries all of it, every day. And he keeps going. Why? Hana smiled sadly. Because he knows that if he stops, someone else will have to carry his burden. Someone who might not be strong enough. She picked up her tablet and showed Rila the screen. It displayed a list of names and pictures. Children of various human ages, smiling at the camera. This is an orphanage on Earth, Hana said. Children who lost their parents in wars. Taiho sends half his pay there every month. He has never met any of them. He never will. But he takes care of them because he knows what it means to lose family to violence. Rila stared at the pictures of the smiling children. She thought about the cold-eyed killer who protected them from across the galaxy. He is complicated, she said softly. All humans are complicated, Hana replied. We are monsters and angels mixed together. We ourselves do not always know which one will come out. 1 week later, Rila submitted her official report to the Coalition Council. She had struggled with the words for days. How could she explain what she had witnessed? How could she describe a species that was so soft and so deadly, so kind and so brutal, so broken and so strong? In the end, she wrote simply, Counselor Ven asked me what humanity's greatest weapon was. I told her it was not their ships, their technology, or even their soldiers. It was their ability to look into the darkness, see it looking back, and simply nod in recognition. They understand the universe's cruelty because they carry it inside themselves. They have made peace with the monster in their hearts. And that makes them capable of things that the rest of us cannot imagine. On Earth, Sergeant Taiho Park stood before a memorial wall. It stretched for kilometers in both directions, covered with the names of soldiers who had fallen in humanity's many wars. He added nothing to the wall. He took nothing from it. He simply stood there, alone with his memories, carrying the weight of what he was taught above him. The stars shone cold and distant, and somewhere in the galaxy, other species told stories about the humans. Stories of 3 soldiers who had walked into an impossible situation and walked out again. Stories of 1 Marine who had killed an army. They were not sure if the stories were true. They were afraid to find out.